Hi, I'm Pete and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. In this video, I want to show you a no sweat way to put on one of those big rear tractor tires and fill it with fluid for extra ballast. I'm going to be doing it on my 1964 Farmall 504 tractor, step by step. First, I want to make sure that everything is clean on the tire. Usually you get some crud stuck to these beads. Clean them off. And then check the inside of the tire. Running your hand around is a good way also for debris, rust, nails, screws, stones. There's some crud in the bottom of this one. This is Murphy's tire soap. You can't use petroleum-based lubricants because they interact with the rubber on the tire in the tube. I think these are soybean based, some kind of vegetable oil, and boy, they make things a lot easier. First, I'm going to coat just the step of the rim here in the kind of bead so that the tire will jump up onto the step and the bead more easily. And I took the time to prep this rim properly. I used rust converter primer on it and put a coat of oil-based paint, Rust-Oleum, on it, because the last thing I want is rust coming loose off the inside of the rim and putting a hole in the tube, which is quite commonly what happens when these things leak. Do the same thing with the bead of the tire that will go on first with tire soap. Then kind of hang the tire on the rim. Just going to kind of work it around. The soap makes things a lot easier. This part of the bead's already around and on, and with the soap you can just kind of work it. See, it's coming around there. There. I like to put this on in steps so I don't make a mess of everything. Now I can coat the inside of the rim bead, same way I did the outside. Now the tube. This is a Firestone tube, which is roughly twice the cost of just the cheapies you find online, and it's a radial tube. Radial tubes are different from bias ply tubes. Of course, you got bias ply or radial tires. These are bias ply tires on this. But a radial tube will be of heavier construction and more flexible. And it's best to hedge your bets when you're putting liquid in a tire. You know, you certainly don't want it to leak down the road. And the stem on this is a two-piece stem, TR218A. So the two halves come apart. The Schrader valve is in the top part. It's got this brass or bronze collar on it to hold it in the tire. Take that off and feed the tube into the tire. Here's the valve stem. Work that through. Put the collar on and hold it in place. Next, some baby powder. I don't know if it makes that much of a difference, but it's cheap insurance. By the way, they don't put asbestos in baby powder anymore. They never did on purpose, but the talc in baby powder comes out of the same sort of seams in the earth as asbestos. Perlite too, it's the same deal. This will help keep the tube from sticking in any one place as I blow it up. It's now it's made out of cornstarch. Yeah. And on the rim too. And the last application of tire soap to the last bead to be put on the rim, the outside bead. Here's the inside now. You can see the tube is kind of tucked back, but it's hard to get it you really want it back in this rear step here, and the baby powder is all over the place as it should be. I'm going to put enough air in the tube so that it takes its shape and helps it from getting bound up in the second bead when I put it on. See the tube in there now? I can push it back and have it stay back because it holds its shape, and keep it away from the bead so I don't pinch it with the irons when I put it on. Now I can start getting the other bead on. I usually start opposite where the valve stem is so that the valve stem part of the tube doesn't get pinched as much. On a fat tire like this, I don't know if it really matters that much, but it's just being safe. Starting's easy. There we go. This is my secret weapon. I put a pair of vice grips in here, and that holds the starting position in place while I work around the rest of the tire. I think I used a curved nose iron for this because it's less likely to pinch into things. And then you just work around in little nibbles, seeing it on, keeping an eye on where the tube is. And you got to work the opposite side back down into the step and the rim so the rest of it goes on easier without trying to stretch the rubber out. Don't stick the spoon in too far. Just barely over. Oops. There we go. These vice grips help a lot to get things going. Now I'm going to bring the rim or the tire up to pressure, and hopefully it'll seat on the bead all right. 12 to 14 pounds for rear tire. That's what I run. You gotta watch as you're filling, make sure it's climbing up on the bead all the way around and on both sides. Not yet. Sometimes, even with all the lubing and baby powder and all the steps, the tire doesn't climb up the rim evenly. This one, I brought it up to 20 psi and it still didn't step out on the bottom. I turned it. And so I took the air out of the tube, unseated the beads, and we'll blow it up again. This was a problem with these tires the first time around. I had a heck of a time. I think that the bead on the tire is a little bit too small for this rim for some reason or another. They're cheap tires. So hopefully this time it'll work. Bang. Nice. Next I want to load this tractor tire with liquid to add weight to the rear. This is a loader tractor, so it needs weight in the rear to counterbalance the weight that the loader is carrying so that the tractor's not tippy and I get good traction out of the rear tires with enough weight on the rear tires. You can put a weight box on the 3-point hitch to do that. You can put liquid in the tires to do that. That was a traditional way. Or you can put weight on the wheels. You can put wheel weights on. Of those three options, I choose to put liquid in the tires because it's the cheapest way to do it. A weight box is pretty cheap too. But the nice thing with liquid in the tires is I'm not putting extra weight on the rear axles of the tractor. It's going directly to the ground, adding weight to the tractor. There's options for liquid in the wheels. You can put in the traditional material was calcium chloride, and calcium chloride mixed with water is heavier than water, but it's really corrosive. So if you ever have a leak, before you know it, the rim rots out. The other option that's more modern is beet juice. Beet juice is also heavier than water and has antifreeze properties because of the sugar in the beet juice. And it's called Rim Guard, is how it's commonly sold. It's quite expensive. It's more expensive than calcium chloride. The third option, the one that I'm using and the one that I took out of this tire and I'm putting back in, is windshield washer fluid. In freezing climate like this, you need something that won't freeze, so plain water doesn't work. You can find windshield washer for about $1 a gallon if you search around for bargains. And when I load this tire, I can put about 65 gallons of that in this tire. This is a 15.5 38 diameter tire. That winds up being somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 or 550 pounds per tire. A good amount of weight if you're doing loader work. And you can load the tire yourself with some pretty affordable tools. And I'll show you. The first step is to take the air out of the tire, let it come out. Take out the valve. This is a special fitting for the valve stem. It's got the valve stem threads on one end, so it threads on. It's got a garden hose connection on the other end, and then it has an air bleeder right here. You press this button and it shoots pressure out of this hole. I think I bought this from Northern Supply way back when. From this fitting, garden hose comes over to the output or the outflow side of a marine utility pump. I think I got this one at Harbor Freight. They're pretty cheap. It's 12 volts, marine deep cycle battery, suction tube into the fluid that I took out of the tire, the windshield washer fluid. I have this whole setup raised up on a table. Gravity helps. Valve at the top so the fluid flows down. Remember, I took the pressure out of the tire. Hook up the pump. You can also power the pump just off the tractor battery, and I think I filled both tires originally on this without even charging the battery, and it was fine. Put a clamp on here to hold the hose down in the bottom of the bucket. And then when the bucket starts to get low, pour in another bucket. After a while, you'll get to the point where the pressure inside from the fluid going in fights the pump too much. These pumps won't push a lot of pressure. It's rated for 50 psi, but it's not really flowing at 50 psi. So what you do when you get to that point and you don't see the bucket going down anymore is stop the pump and then hit this little valve here and let the pressure out. There's not a lot this time, but as you get more fluid in there and there's less space for air, the air will really come out when you hit the limit of the pump. I guess I forgot this too. With this type of fitting, it's got two sizes on the end of it. One goes on here. And the other one, if you take apart this type of valve stem, you can screw it directly on the larger diameter and then the fluid will flow faster. Working on 15 gallons here. You can see it going down. Once you bleed off the pressure, it flows pretty fast for quite a while. This darn tire's come back off the bead because I released the pressure in it. That's unique to this tire. That normally doesn't happen. When I inflate it, it'll jump back on when we're done. This will be 25 gallons. I've bled it once that I showed, and I'm about 15 minutes into it. It doesn't take that long, longer than a tire shop would take, but it's just fine in a home shop. The pump's self-bleeding. I turned it off and it's back flowing the air out. Oh, you guys drain the pressure once in a while. Let's do it this way. Much quicker than the bleed valve to just disconnect it. Back in business. This is the last of what I took out of the tire, about 47 gallons. And I'll bleed the pressure off for a third time. Top it off, because I lost some fluid while it was leaking. This is left over from when I originally filled the tires 10, 12 years ago. All these 5-gallon buckets have gone into the tire. And this final one will make 60 gallons. Bleed the last pressure off here. Might get some backflow. Well, let's not do that. The tire's filled right up to the top because the tube is a little bit smaller because there's no air pressure in it, so we'll do it the quick way. I don't know if there's a quick way. I'm going to try this. Well, that's the wrong way around. Oh, there goes 99 cents. Won't take nearly as much air now. That filling took me about 45 minutes, including screwing around with the pump and all that. It's not that hard to do. It's a low pressure tire, so the pump can push it in. The tire is full when it's about equal to the valve stem, and they call that, I think, 75% full. And if you go online, you can find charts for your tire size. It says if you fill it to 75 and even to 50, how much weight you'll have in it using water, calcium chloride, and rim guard or beet juice. A tire company, a professional that comes on farms and does this kind of thing could do this quicker probably. But it's not that hard, and you don't need a lot of tools to do it yourself, and I guess that's the point of the video, a no sweat way to put on a tire and fill it with liquid for extra weight. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm wondering if my next project should be to actually put this weight on correctly. It's 90 degrees off. Anyway, hope it was helpful, and I'll see you next time.